It's been exactly 2 months since the martial law order was issued. Although it was a short-lived, botched one, the aftermath of the lingering political instability is now wobbling domestic demand and consumer sentiment here in the country. Let's turn to Professor Shin Se-don for more. Welcome back, Professor Shin.
Good morning.
So we are now seeing data that reflects the repercussions of the martial law order. South Korea's retail sales dropped by the most in 21 years last year due to poor domestic demand. The question is, how big of an influence did the martial law order have on the latest figure?
Well, fortunately, we were able to have a December figure, and the December figure shows that undoubtedly there has been the effect of martial law imposition December 3rd. And the number shows that although, year over year figure for the service production is negative 2.2%, but there are certain industries that show more significant or more drastic change in the production, which is, food and lodging industry has fallen about 2.8%. And the most hit by the martial law declaration is sports and art service, which has been fallen by 8.7%. So there has been a significant damage to certain industry, certain service industry like food and lodging, and the sports and entertainment industries.
Well, it is the latest martial law order is the latest political crisis that South Korea experienced. And in general, how much do a political crisis like a martial law order or declaration affect consumer spending?
Well, half of that, I think, is related to, consumers' kind of expectation. What's going to happen, next to this kind of a political calamity? And the people are pretty much distressed by unheard of, a declaration of a martial law in December 3rd. And in my projection, that will, according to the Bank of Korea, it's going to, lower the growth rate by 0.2 percentage point. But to my projection, it could go up as a half a percentage point, in which case, this year's economic growth rate could be below 1.0%.
Right. It's also notable how the martial law declaration was issued in December when, people get generous or spend more because of holidays. What about the real estate? There were just over 3,000 real estate transactions in December last year. But this is a notably low figure considering we saw over 9,000 transactions last July alone. What's slowing people's decisions to, buy and sell?
Yeah, it is because of a complex kind of reasons. One is that, the second, we call it stress test, kind of a program was postponed early last year, but because of the kind of criticism from the market, government decided to implement that from the September, the second stress test, which means that the banking institutions are going to be very difficult in making loans. That's one thing. And there's another thing is that the government has to press, regulation on housing loans because the price of housing has been rising very rapidly. So there are two reasons. One is the implementation of September, about the second stress test stage, and the other one is the government regulation on housing loans.
Well, does that mean we'll continue to see poor figures for January for domestic consumption in the real estate sector?
Definitely. We're not talking about yet, about the Trump administration's, kind of a trade tariff wars. And we're not talking about, what's going to happen in the political arena in Korea. So if you add that up, the negative effect of Trump administration on the one hand, and the other one, political progress in Korea, I think that's going to have a more negative effect upon Korean economic growth down the road.
Well, Professor Shin, the government is doing its best. The Finance Ministry plans to accelerate efforts to recover the local economy, which includes implementing an economic reinforcement package worth over $12 billion US dollars. Now, will that be enough? I mean, what else should there be?
Well, most of that, government kind of a package, about I think the 90% or 95% of that is loans. Already people are sick and tired of loans, because loan, even though you can have money in your hands, but you have to pay back, and also you have to pay the interest on that. So I think most of the package is including the kind of loans which has been already devastated the many small and medium firms. So I think making loans to the small and medium-sized enterprises will not be sufficient to recover the damage of whatsoever after 12/3 kind of martial law. So I think the government has to be more audacious, and instead of providing loans, I think the government has to provide more of a fiscal support.
So more audacity from the government with fiscal support, you're saying. Professor Shin, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.